Hello, welcome back to Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts. I'm Susan Chapal. Today we venture back into ancient history to meet a Greek philosopher who may be able to shed some light on the worlds inside Newt's case. Is his collection of beasts in any way related to the Pentagram at MACUSA and J.K. Rowling's theme of 5?
I covered many theories like this in my book, Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts, and hope you'll check it out. We know that in the Harry Potter series, 7 held significant meaning, not only in its relationship to Voldemort's Horcruxes, but also seeping through the thematic subtext for the whole series, and that theme's major metaphor was alchemy. There were 7 steps in the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, and those 7 steps represented 7 years of Harry's transformation from a young boy alone and lost in the world to a young man so sure of himself and his mission that he sacrificed his life for all those he loved, and even those he didn't. With Fantastic Beasts, 5 is the new 7. We will have 5 movies, perhaps 5 wizarding schools, and the 5 world leaders who spoke in the Pentagram scene may represent 5 major locations. Ever since J.K. Rowling announced that there would be 5 films, I've been searching to see what, if any, thematic significance 5 could have for her. And what I found fits well within the classics she studied in school. I have 2 prior videos in the Secrets in the Pentagram series that I encourage you to watch as well, because they set up all the symbolism of 5 that has been shown so far. In the first video, I reviewed how Rowling used 5 in the film, especially with that key pentagram symbol at MACUSA, and how the circles within it may relate to demon sigils of Renaissance magic. In the second, we studied those sigils more intently as to how they may relate personally to the characters and Rowling's stated focus of talking about the beast that's in everyone and the way that we make beasts of others. I held off doing this video because it goes very deep into the thematic subtext and discusses the somewhat obscure beliefs of a lesser-known Greek philosopher, so I thought it might be a bit dry. However, with some of the information now being released and new hints of what's to come, understanding this ancient belief system based around 5 and Joe's possible use of it is key to a couple of theories I have going forward. The symbols we looked at within the pentagram in the prior videos were Renaissance in design. However, when you research the pentagram itself back to some of its earliest origins, you stumble across a 6th century BCE Greek philosopher by the name of Pherecydes of Syros. Pherecydes lived about the same time as the better-known Pythagoras, though a few years older, and is thought to have been one of Pythagoras' teachers. Indeed, some of their beliefs and teachings are very similar, but it is Pherecydes who authored a book called Metempsychosis, translated as the 5 recesses, or corners or nooks, that I find very intriguing. His text has not survived in its original form, but can be pieced together through the work of ancient book reviewers as they analyzed or commented on it. Thus, there is some difference of opinion as to exactly what was said. We're going to hit some of the better accepted highlights. Pentamikos presented Pherecydes' cosmogony, his model of the origin of the cosmos, by way of mythic language. The 5 recesses were cavities in the earth where Zas, or Zeus, had left his seed to birth the next generation of gods and bring order to the cosmos. But first, there's a battle. As described by a 19th century researcher at Cornell, credited below, the king of the gods is not Zeus, but Zas, he who lives. His father is Kronos, time, rather than Cronus, from whom water, earth, air, and fire spring. Kronos and Zas fight a war against Ophion, or Ophianus, the snake man, and Zas celebrates his victory by weaving a robe for Thoni, who is transformed into Ge, the surface of the earth. He who lives, the snake man. Interesting links to Harry Potter, don't you think? But I'd like to point out some other key details from the cosmology that I think relate to Fantastic Beasts. First, the 5 recesses were often visually represented as the pentagram, with each line or point representing the property or god of one of these recesses. Aia is the Greek word for help, or the goddess of help, and the Pythagoreans called their pentagram after her, labeling each point with one of these Greek letters. Thus, Udor is water, Gaia is earth, Idea or ieron is idea or divine inspiration. Ile is heat, and air, air. While later systems focused on the elements themselves, the Pythagoreans seem to have focused on their effect on health in a holistic sense of the word. Their philosophy involved the mathematical perfection of the universe and the wholeness of the human. Thus, Pythagoreans greeted each other with "be sound, whole, or blessed," and identified each other by the pentagram. For the Pythagoreans, however, the pentagram was depicted with 2 points up. Another symbol attributed to Pherecydes is the winged oak. It is a tree of life that may have been inspired from more ancient Assyrian or Sumerian imagery. What is interesting about the winged oak is that we get a very visual representation of it in Fantastic Beasts. Inside Newt's case, when he first shows Jacob around, we see a very curious beast that is not referenced in Newt's famous textbook, but is quite beautifully brought to life. The script book called these golden leaves, with leaves in quotes to hint that they were something more. They are alive. Watch as they flutter to life, swarm upward and around the top of the inside of Newt's case to mingle with doxies, glowbugs, and grindylows, which float through the air.
Bugger. Any chance to get his hands on something shiny?
Not only do they offer the audience an incredible visual of all that Newt's case contains, but they also hint at one of the series' most important themes, the union of the elements. The golden leaves start as earth, as they are part of the tree. They fly through the air to mingle with doxies, also of the air, and glowbugs, which are of fire. The grindylows float in their own bubbles of water. And for spirit, we even have a hint of that with the transformation of the leaves into something like a butterfly, a common metaphor for spirit. Here, in the heart of Newt's case, is the Pythagorean pentagram brought to life. From the moment Newt arrives by ship, sailing across the Atlantic, water plays a key part of the first film. We see this played out through the erumpent slipping across a frozen pond, to the deathly waters of the execution chamber, to the restorative rain of Frank's storm at the end. If the first film had water as its key element, might we see one of each of these 5 elements highlighted per film going forward? However, Pherecydes' 5 recesses are slightly different than Pythagoras' pentagram. Could Newt's case contain all 5 of Pherecydes' chambers as well? Exactly what his recesses represented are very hard to pin down, because different sources cite different regions and gods with varying attributions, but according to the main scholar on Pherecydes, cited below, here is a possible reconstruction. Uranus, of the sky, shown in the pen of the thunderbird. Aether, of light, shown by the sun shining directly on the golden leaves tree of life. Tartarus, of the underworld, shown as the cave of the runespore, which got deleted. Chaos, of cold and death, in the snowy place of the obscurus, and night, darkness, in the pen of the moon calves and Graphorn. Pherecydes' beliefs were understood to represent both cosmological and personal order, the macro and the micro, the as above, so below. The pentagram thus represents the initiate's journey to unite the elements inside the world and within oneself, such that the ordered cosmos would appear. Inner and world peace, and this leads to perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Pherecydes' philosophy as it may pertain to Fantastic Beasts. He is credited for being the first Greek thinker to write about the human soul. His concept is called Metempsychosis, which is the ancient Greek version of reincarnation, or the transmigration of souls. One of the most beautiful depictions of this concept comes from Plato in his Republic. In the myth of air, he tells of a man who returned to life from death and revealed its secrets. At one point in air's collection, quote, he went with others to the place of judgment and saw the souls returning from heaven, and proceeded with them to a place where they chose new lives, human and animal. He saw the soul of Orpheus changing into a swan, Thamyris becoming a nightingale, musical birds choosing to be men, the soul of Atalanta choosing the honors of an athlete. Men were seen passing into animals, and wild and tame animals changing into each other. After their choice, the souls drank of Lethe, and then shot away like stars to their birth. It's a beautiful representation, but notice two key features. One is that the soul can travel between human to animal and animal to human. Fairly interesting link in a series that includes magical beasts, don't you think? The other is how the soul about to be reincarnated must drink of the Lethe River to forget their former life. MACUSA must have imported some bottled waters from the river Lethe, because the waters of rippling potion in their death chamber acts like a giant pensieve to lull those about to be executed to death. But was Rowling drawing on the Lethe River or the river of memory in constructing her death chamber? According to the Pythagoreans and some mystery religions, which we discussed in an earlier video on Jacob, their initiates were taught to drink from the Mnemosyne, the river of memory, instead. Thus they would remember everything and escape the cycle of reincarnation to ascend to the level of the divine. Could Tina have become an initiate into the search for spiritual truth? To sum up what I see happening here, Rowling may be drawing upon beliefs associated with Pherecydes and Pythagoras to add a layer of subtext that will provide depth of meaning and clues of what's to come. In Harry Potter, Rowling used alchemy as a deep well to hint at transformation of character. But where Harry's was largely a solo hero's journey, I suspect that transformation within Fantastic Beasts will be of a team. With the MACUSA pentagram representing the beast within, and Newt's case holding a mini cosmos, I believe we'll see a hint of Pherecydes' vision, the realization of both inner and outer transformation. Newt's case contains all the elemental forces needed for Newt and team to bring order to the cosmos while transforming their personal lives. But it'll take a union of these elements to combat the incredible destructive powers of a world at war, especially one that includes an atomic threat. Thus, I believe the personal journeys of Newt, Tina, Queenie, and Jacob will be much more intertwined than what we saw with Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and that the team will unite to aid one more, the fifth element. But more on that one in the next video. This video is based on one of my passions, ancient esoteric beliefs, and I have a tendency with this type of material to go more in depth than is necessary or than most people are interested in. Therefore, I cut a lot of possible links short. However, if you find any of this material as fascinating as I do and would like to discuss deeper and further, let me know in the comments. Perhaps we can set up our own mystery school to explore further. What do you think about Pherecydes' 5 recesses, or his winged oak, or metempsychosis? Do you see any of this living within the subtext of Fantastic Beasts? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to check the description box below for any links I cited and videos mentioned, and please subscribe for future theories. Also, don't forget to check out my Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts at Amazon or your local bookseller.